Most rose advice for August is wrong, written for climates that aren't yours, for seasons that don't match your calendar, by people who've never had to garden through a zone 5 to 6 winter. If you're gardening in zone 5 to 6, here's exactly what your roses need from you this week: mid-August, late summer, and nothing more. If you're in zone 3 or 4, you're probably still in full summer growth mode. Hold off on this checklist for a few more weeks yet. Your window comes later. Zone 7 and warmer, you likely shifted into this exact rhythm back in July, and you're already past this. But for the rest of us, right now, less is about to become your best strategy. Not because your roses suddenly need less care overall, because the wrong kind of care, applied this late in the season, actively works against them. The less is more August principle. Here's the principle behind everything today. Your roses are quietly shifting gears, even though the calendar still says summer. Daylight is shortening, even if the heat hasn't caught up to that yet. Growth hormone production is slowing down. Energy that spent June and July pushing new canes and new blooms is starting to redirect toward root development, toward carbohydrate storage in the crown, toward the slow internal work of preparing to survive winter. Gardeners call part of this process hardening off, and it's not optional. It's the plant's own survival mechanism kicking in on schedule. Push your rose hard right now. Heavy feeding, aggressive pruning, a fresh round of transplanting, and you force tender new growth at exactly the moment the plant is biologically trying to stop producing it. That new growth won't have time to harden before the first cold snap, and soft new tissue is what frost damage finds first every single time. This week is about protecting what you've already got, not forcing more of it. 5 tasks, that's the entire list. Do these, skip everything else, and your roses will thank you in October when they sail through the first frost instead of getting hit hard by it. You've probably seen the mistake before, maybe even made it yourself. A rose looks a little tired in mid-August, so the instinct kicks in. Give it a feeding, cut it back hard, tidy the whole bed up before fall. It feels productive. It feels like you're helping. And it's exactly backwards. That tired look in August isn't a problem to fix with more intervention. It's the plant doing precisely what it's supposed to be doing at this point in the season. The gardeners who get the best results this time of year aren't the ones doing the most. They're the ones doing the right 5 things and stopping there. Task 1, the deadhead-only protocol. Remove spent blooms. That's the whole job this week, and it's easy to overdo it without realizing. No shaping cuts, no reducing plant height. No tidying the silhouette into something neater for the season, tempting as that looks. Find the spent bloom, follow the stem down to the first 5-leaflet leaf, not the first leaf you see, the first full 5-leaflet one, and cut at an angle just above it. Cutting any deeper than that right now signals the plant to push a fresh flush of tender cane exactly when it should be slowing down, cane that has no realistic path to hardening before the season turns. If you're not sure which leaf is the 5-leaflet one, count outward from the cut stem, 3 leaflets, then 5 again, cut above a 5, never above a 3. Task 2, deep watering rhythm. Every 5 to 7 days, 1 deep soak. Here's the hands-on test. Push a finger 2 inches into the soil near the base of the plant. If it still feels damp, wait another day and check again. Shallow daily watering trains roots to stay close to the surface, right where August heat and evaporation hit hardest, which is the opposite of what you want heading into a dry stretch. A deep soak on a 5 to 7 day rhythm pulls roots downward into cooler, more stable soil several inches down. The kind of root system that shrugs off a dry week instead of wilting through it. Water at the base, not over the foliage. Wet leaves sitting in August heat overnight are an open invitation to fungal disease, and it's one of the most common mistakes well-meaning beginners make with a garden hose. If you're on a sprinkler system that hits the whole bed overhead, this is the week to switch that zone to early morning only, so any incidental leaf wetting has all day to dry before nightfall. Roses in containers need a slightly different rhythm than roses in the ground. Pots dry out faster and lose that deep soil buffer entirely, so check them every 3 to 4 days instead of the 5 to 7 day window, using the same finger test to confirm before you water. Task 3, mulch top-up. Check your depth right now. You want a full 3 inches, no more, pulled back an inch or two from the base of each cane. Push a finger straight down through the mulch to the soil line if you're not sure what you've actually got left. Guessing from the surface is unreliable. Mulch that's compacted or thinning lets soil temperature swing hard and moisture evaporate fast, quietly undoing the deep watering you just did in task 2. Mulch piled directly against the cane, on the other hand, traps moisture against the bark, invites rot, and gives pests a direct bridge up into the plant. Top it up where it's thin, pull it back an inch from the crown, and you've solved 2 problems with 1 short task. Not all mulch behaves the same way here. Shredded bark or wood chips hold their depth for months, while straw or shredded leaves settle and compact faster. So, with a lighter material, check back in a few weeks rather than assuming this top-up holds all the way to frost. If this is saving you some guesswork, a like helps this reach more Zone 5 to 6 gardeners who need this exact list this week. Back to it. Task 4, Disease Scouting. Here's what actually deserves your attention. Black spots starting low on the plant and climbing upward. Dark, irregular spots with yellowing halos around them. And powdery mildew, coating new soft growth in a pale gray-white film. Both call for action. Remove affected leaves and get them off the property entirely. Don't compost them, since both pathogens can survive and respread from a home compost pile even after the leaf itself breaks down. Improve airflow around the base while you're in there, thin out any crossing canes if the plant's grown crowded over the summer. Here's what to leave alone. A handful of yellowing leaves near the base of an otherwise healthy plant. That's normal end-of-season leaf drop, not disease. And pulling leaves or reaching for a spray over it wastes effort you could spend on the tasks that actually matter this week. Learning that difference is half the battle of August rose care. Task 5, Pest Patrol. Japanese beetles are entering their endgame this time of year. Overall numbers dropping fast, but the survivors that remain are still hungry and still doing visible damage to buds and foliage. Handpick in early morning while they're sluggish and slow to fly, and drop them straight into a cup of soapy water underneath the plant. Skip the pheromone trap sold at every garden center right now. Research consistently shows they attract more beetles into your yard from neighboring properties than they actually catch. Aphids, meanwhile, are surging on any tender new growth you've still got this week. A hard blast of water from the hose knocks most of them straight off. A light application of insecticidal soap handles the stragglers that hang on. 2 very different pests, 2 very different playbooks. Treating them the same way wastes effort on both fronts. And if you're seeing both at once, which happens more often than you'd think in mid-August, handle the beetles first thing in the morning and check for aphids again in the afternoon, since the soap treatment works best in the cooler hours anyway. Diagnostic test, the leaf color check. Here's your diagnostic test for the week, the leaf color check. Walk your rose bed and look specifically at the newest leaves, not the oldest ones near the base. Uniform pale green across new growth with no blotching or pattern to it is completely normal late-season behavior. Your plant easing off production the way it's biologically supposed to right now. Yellowing that shows up between the veins on older leaves while the veins themselves stay green is worth noting but not alarming this late in the season. It's a sign of a plant conserving and redirecting resources, not a plant in crisis. What actually deserves a closer look is anything sudden, uneven, or spreading fast across the entire plant in just a few days. That's your real signal to investigate further, not a reason to reach for the fertilizer. Take a phone photo of the bed this week if you can. It gives you a real comparison point in a few weeks instead of relying on memory, which tends to exaggerate how bad things look in the moment. What you should not do this week. Which brings us to what you should not do this week. 3 things, and they matter every bit as much as the 5 tasks above. Do not feed. Fertilizer pushes exactly the kind of new growth your plant doesn't have time to harden before frost, and that feeding window closed earlier this month. It stays closed now until spring, no matter how tempting a slow-release granule looks on the shelf. Do not prune beyond deadheading. No shaping, no size reduction, no structural cuts of any kind, even if a cane looks a little wild. And do not transplant or divide anything right now. Roots disturbed in August heat rarely recover fast enough before the plant needs to shift its energy toward hardening off instead of root repair. A rose that's busy regrowing damaged roots in September has less to spend on the winter prep work that actually keeps it alive. 3 don'ts, 5 do's. That's the complete list for this week. Nothing more and nothing less. So that's the whole checklist. Deadhead only, nothing deeper than the first 5 leaflet leaf. Water deep and infrequent, not shallow and daily. Top up your mulch to a full 3 inches. Scout for disease and know exactly what to ignore. Patrol for pests with the right method for each one. And leave the feeding, the pruning, and the transplanting alone until the calendar actually calls for it again. Do these 5 things this week, skip everything else, and your roses are already telling you exactly what they need. You just have to listen instead of intervene. Bookmark this one if you need to. It's the kind of list that's more useful sitting in your pocket while you're out in the garden than remembered from a single watch through. Next time, we're looking at which roses hold their blooms longest into fall, worth knowing before you start planning next year's bed. If this saved you some guesswork this week, hit like and subscribe so you don't miss it.